And good day, everyone. Richard Copperthwaite for Northwest Access TV. Thank you for joining us today. And we're guesting with St Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Mr. Mayor, good to see you.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
Just fine. Just fine. Anyway, we get ever closer to March Town Meeting Day. Again, I should note we're taping this show on Wednesday, February 16th. So, boy, 13 days away?
13 days.
Not too far away. The city council race, I interviewed the two candidates contesting the Ward 2 seat. Jim Pelkey, of course, the alderman not running for re-election, and Jamie Pinkham and Newell Decker. You backing anybody? Probably not the best idea, huh?
We can talk about it. I've been accused of endorsing folks, even though there's been no evidence of that. In my day job, we don't, even, doesn't matter, national, state, local elections, we don't endorse, because at some point we'll probably have to be working with all of them. So we sort of keep that out of the limelight.
It makes sense.
I even had a call from Congressman Welch, and I said, look, I can't.
Is that right?
You know, if you want to come up, I'll introduce you to folks and that, but I can't do an endorsement.
Right. I suspect you're not going to be unhappy when Congressman Welch becomes Senator Welch.
I think he's done a good job over the years, Congressman, and he knows the lay of the land. So,
I guess the a couple of years down the road, it'll be very interesting to see if Senator Sanders runs again in 2024. I guess we'll wait and see a couple of years on that one.
They'll put him at what?
He'd be about 90 at the end of his next 6-year term if he were to run. He would obviously win, I assume, but I give that about a 50-50 now. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to so again we have a contested Ward 2 race: Jamie Pinkham and Newell Decker. Tim Hawkins running unopposed in Ward 1.
Yep.
And, of course, you're running unopposed for a third 2-year term.
Correct.
Certainly the charter amendment, I think, and I just kind of belatedly noticed this. Of course, the amendment on the city charter shall the city of St. Albans, again, basically go from an appointed city clerk treasurer position to an appointed one. There's no reference to city treasurer on that ballot item. So what's the story with city treasurer?
You know, just to correct you, you said appointed to appointed, but it was elected to appointed.
Just the opposite from elected to appointed.
Going from an elected position to an appointed position. So just so folks know. Now the city clerk and treasurer it'd be considered the same for both.
But there's no reference to city treasurer, so
I thought there was. I thought we went over that on Monday night.
Unless it's changed. The one I have in front of me just
there was
mentioned
2 pages.
city clerk. Is that right?
I don't know if...
Anyway. No, in fact, maybe is there another one that mentions treasurer?
I thought there was.
My mistake. Boy, I'm off to a tough start this morning for some reason. Sorry about that. City treasurer is on there. And again, no surprise, no one filed to run for city clerk treasurer.
No. And again, just from my perspective on that, when I was elected 4 years ago, I thought the position was had a lot of autonomy. They could do pretty much what they wanted. They could set hours. They could, they could take days off. I mean, during that process, we definitely lucked out with Curry Galloway being elected. She has proven to be wonderful and an excellent city clerk. But it's there's no opportunity to do a background check. There's no opportunity to vet skills, to see what the skills are. So you could have someone get elected if they ran unopposed, say, and really not have the skills to manage the office. Yeah. And I always thought that was odd. And that was one of the first conversations I had with the city manager. And then the opportunity arose, so we thought we would. And I think everyone I've spoken to is of the same thinking, that I think the consensus was they didn't want the city manager picking someone, but they were comfortable with the council making the appointment and having the clerk answer to the council.
Right.
So,
boy, so obviously that's a big vote. Obviously, you're really hoping to get a positive vote on that. It's come up before years ago. I remember, I think, the last vote, and it was pretty. The proposal to have an appointed rather than elected position lost pretty easily. I suspect things have probably changed.
Yeah, I think things have changed significantly. Not only in Mainly in what's expected of the clerk. You know, the state guidelines and state expectations have really grown over the years.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I asked former Mayor Peter Delorier what was his most contentious issue as mayor, and he said this was it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, back.
Because that's probably when it came out. I suspect the issue came up during his long tenure.
I think
at some point.
Peter brought it to the forefront, and that was the most contentious. That was probably about 16, 20 years ago.
Yeah,
But it seems that attitudes have changed, and
Yeah.
we'd hope to move forward with this.
So again, you're obviously hoping for a positive vote on that, and then if
Right.
that happens, it has to go to the legislature. I
Has
guess
to go to the
Councilor Mike
legislature.
McCarthy and
Yeah.
State Rep will shepherd that through, but that shouldn't be any issue if you pass it locally, I wouldn't think.
Right.
And July 1st would be the date that the city council would be able to, of course, you'd appoint somebody soon, right? What happens between now and July 1st?
Well,
Or between
the
March 1
assistant
and
clerk
July
was
1st?
Sarah Gabry, who's
Gabry.
at the office now. We would appoint
Okay.
her as an interim
Okay.
clerk, and then she would appoint an assistant.
Okay.
So then the assistant would run the office for the most part. Sarah has moved over to the zoning office, but they're one door away from each other, so they would continue to work together for the next 4 months.
Right, dealt with Sarah the other day when I paid taxes. Speaking
Yeah.
of taxes, quarterly taxes are due pretty soon.
Yeah, we
For-
just paid through FCIDC, we just paid the town taxes on the industrial park and other buildings that we
Oh,
have,
yeah.
so.
Anyway, and again, folks can go down to the city clerk's office and pick up a ballot anytime and vote ahead of time if need be, or at City Hall from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on March 1st. I know. Again, taping this show on February 16th. I guess Police Chief Morris Molamont was with you this past Monday night I just read the messenger story this morning, in fact. But I guess absolutely no surprise with service calls down in the last calendar year, having lost the town for half the year.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
anything jumping out at you from that police report?
Yeah, for me, the thing that really jumped out at me was the lack of interaction where enforcement was needed, or restraint, I should say. There was, out of all those calls, I think there was 9,000. There was 30 documented cases of using restraint. So, and using restraint is, as he described, can vary from, someone trying to pull away when they're being handcuffed, or didn't follow instructions. So, restraint is probably, some people may view that as a stronger term than what is used for their policy.
Right.
And that's the thing that surprised me the most. I think there was 30 cases where they had to use restraint on, and there was, I think, 18 males and 12 females. So that for me, I think that speaks volume about what's happening in the city. We've come a long ways over the last 4 or 5 years. Chief Lamont's done a wonderful job. They've moved into their new space.
Yeah.
That's worked out very well.
Yeah.
So I won't speak for the council, but for me, I was very pleased with the report.
And again, staffing holding up pretty well. You're down, and maybe an officer or two at this point, Tim?
I think we still have an officer out on maternity leave.
Yeah.
But we didn't get into that on Monday night, but I think we're still sitting fine. As you've alluded to in the past, we still are patrolling in Highgate. I came through there on Monday, I guess, and I saw
Yeah.
one of the cars up on Route 78. So it'll be curious to see. It's easy to subtract out what the town calls were for the last 6 months of last year, but it'll be nice to get a full year under our belt for just for the city and Highgate.
Did the chief get into just the opioid crisis? Is that still,
No,
not really.
That has not been discussed. Ironically, though, I did shoot an email off. As you know, the city was part of the lawsuit against the opioid companies and distributors. And that settlement, I haven't heard much about for the last, I think there was a lot of activity probably 4 months ago, and we haven't heard anything, so I just shot an email off trying to see where we stand on that settlement and when that might ultimately come through.
Interesting. Any fire department news these days?
No, just a sad case of, we lost, there's a house on South Main Street that was a week ago Monday, I think.
Oh, really?
Conflicting reports whether they can be salvaged or not, but it's borderline.
Huh.
And it started by a improperly disposed smoking
Oh.
item. And there's an individual that I've come to know there was a GoFundMe page. Suppose what I heard was Red Cross was right there. They had a place set up for him before midday, and they were able to transition quickly. But it's just a tough scenario to lose. Not everything in this case, but pretty close to everything.
For sure, especially this time of
Yeah,
year,
this time of
probably
year.
especially.
Yeah.
I haven't asked you about, I know it was an issue for a while, some good old GPS, but some trucks coming down like like Upper Weldon, is that still an issue?
Yeah, it's a never-ending battle. We've got signage up. We've got signs that say that your GPS is wrong. We've given tickets, significant size tickets over the years. We've had discussions with companies where they might be delivering to. The ironic piece about the whole thing is the route they've chosen, which is many times they're being directed that route by a GPS company.
Right.
And Garmin being one of them. They take the most difficult route, as opposed to going down the interstate access road and coming onto Main Street, which would be much easier, whether you're going to the industrial park or the Milan or the co-op. But they take those roads like Weldon Street, which is very thin, narrow, and they just make it more difficult on themselves. And if they do get caught, like I said, I've heard of fines being as much as $6,000 or $7,000.
Really, significant fines.
Yeah.
Jeez, I just can't imagine. I don't even love driving on Weldon Street.
know,
It is
I
a
know.
narrow street in my sedan, but always an issue. Anything new to report on ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Act money that
No.
the city has?
The interesting thing with the ARPA money is that the uses has changed significantly. I think when I was here 2 months ago, there was a certain guidelines of what you could use the money for: infrastructure, loss of business, all that stuff. And then, 6 weeks ago, they came through that you can use it for pretty much anything you want.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's become more flexible.
It really opened up the uses, so communities can use it more freely, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and our last use, we're going slow with it. We did commit some dollars to Maple Street, 22
Right.
Maple Street, Colony Square, I think it is, to do some brownfield assessments. That was about $60,000 or $70,000, and that can really make a huge impact if that property were to sell based on what the analysis is on the brownfields. It would be a huge improvement to that neighborhood down there. So we're focused on that, and we'll use some to fill in some holes, I think, at the Fonda site. We did sell one parcel to Connor Contracting that will be constructing the rail dispatch building.
Right.
So we're taking it, so we've got till, I think, 2025. So we're not jumping into that too quickly.
Right. And speaking of that site, the city would love to see a new U.S. Customs and Immigration Services building go up there, but I suspect you're not holding your breath on that at this point.
Yeah, I would take it to the point, we would love to hear anything about it.
Boy, is that what you're just hearing? Nothing?
Nothing. So I just sent, I think 2 weeks ago, I think I mentioned that I sent an email off to the delegation, Congressman Welch and Senator Sanders and Leahy.
Hmm.
And they came back that there's nothing to report. They've heard nothing from GIS.
Really?
You know, it's frustrating to be, it was a hurry up and wait scenario.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted a letter of intent, and then they'd put their proposals out. People submitted proposals, and I think the proposals were back in October.
Yeah.
So it's been 6 months with really no communication whatsoever.
Wow.
So it's
Huh.
it's frustrating. I mean, we'd like to know one way or the other, so at least we can move on from it.
Yeah,
So-
I think we've talked before. Something tells me if you never hear anything else about that, I wouldn't be stunned. It just seems
Yeah,
like
no,
they just may well go with the status quo,
you're right.
which is certainly, I mean, a hit a bit on downtown St. Albans. I mean, there used to be, hundreds of workers at the
Yeah, and-
Gil Tabor complex.
Yeah, St. Albans definitely benefited from it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talk a lot about in-migration and out-migration of employees, and there was that in-migration to
Right.
the immigration facility. And when you have that in-migration, you have, to your point, they go, you know, they go have a drink or a appetizer after work with their colleagues, and, you
Yeah.
know, you never know, and they might pop into the local grocery store to grab something before they head out. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's I'm guessing we probably have seen a little bit of a decline in COVID itself. So, but yeah, it would be nice to have it within the St. Albans limits, city or town.
Tim, stormwater issue is a big issue for, I guess, most municipalities. I think the town even hired a kind of an official kind of stormwater person to deal with that issue. What is it, MS4? Have I got the right?
MS4, right. So where you have, where your water resources feeding the lake have high content, they call it a TMDL, total maximum daily load of
Right.
phosphorus and other things, that's what they want to try to reduce. The city has a utility, the town now has a utility, a stormwater utility. Everyone per parcel is paying a fee. The town currently is higher than the city's amount. I think the city is at $15 or $12. The town, I think it's $55 for a parcel.
Huh.
It doesn't matter what size the parcel is for the most part, unless it's above 3 acres, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but so they're charging $55 a parcel. So both are intended to accumulate a savings account, if you will, or an account that can then be used to defer other costs relative to stormwater projects. You know, the one I'd like to see at some point, and we've talked about it on the city level, is some type of containment of the overflow runoff when you have large storms. So when you have those large storms, they really stress the wastewater plant. And sometimes you have, it's treated but not totally gone through the process. There's some overflow that goes into the brooks, and so we would love to be able to address that at some point.
Again, I'm not sure even when this show airs. We're taping on Wednesday, Feb 16, but the St. Albans Winter Carnival Festival coming up this weekend at Hardack.
Yeah, I've been meaning to check in with Kelly to find out what the
Yeah.
status is.
Was there some doubt at this point?
Well, the concern is always with warm weather and rain, and now we have. I
Sounds
don't
like
even
we're
know.
going to get just
Yeah,
that.
I don't even know if there's going to be
Thursday.
snow on Hardack.
Right. Could be a problem.
And if right now my guess is it's pretty icy,
Yeah.
and we always take caution when we have those conditions.
Yeah. Tell me about ice.
Yeah,
and
right.
Again, people will be watching this after the weather, but it sounds like, very warm this Thursday with rain, and then a fast freeze Friday, so it sounds like conditions. So I guess well.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
predicting up to 53 degrees, right? So
Yeah.
I don't even know if there will be left
Wow.
up up at Aldous Hill, which is disappointing because Kelly and her team put a lot of effort in.
Jeez, I'm sure.
They had some good plans. I know that part of that is also fireworks. I mean,
Right.
the fireworks can always happen.
Yeah,
But in terms of, her other activities, I don't know what the answer to that. My guess is they will be postponed or canceled.
right. It might be postponed to a later date possibly?
Yeah, I think there's a possibility of that.
Possibly.
Like I said, I haven't spoken to Kelly, but, we've got some of our better snowfalls in March.
Yeah.
We'd like to think that we could keep, it's disappointing because we can't, if that weather comes through and eliminates most of our snow,
Right.
Harnack will not be open for school vacation, which is always a goal,
Right.
is to have those evenings, and those are the memories the kids are gonna remember, skiing at Harnack at night, and
Right.
so I would say it doesn't look good.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm sure she and the rec folks have put a lot of work into it. Actually, while I think of recreation, I've seen a flyer. I guess there's a vote in Georgia related to the city recreation department, whether Georgia residents want to, I guess, put out some bucks to kind of have Georgia
Yeah,
folks doing rec department paying the same as like St. Albans
Right.
City folks.
So the conversation is always, you have resident and non-resident
Right.
fees. So if you're from Swanton, Fairfield, Sheldon, and you want to do youth soccer, you want to do basketball or ski lessons, whatever it is,
Yeah,
the city, because they're footing the bill for the most cost,
yeah,
pay a lesser amount than outlying communities. Georgia, which is from my understanding, is a big user of the rec department for a variety of things, swim lessons and whatnot.
yeah.
There's been some advocacy in Georgia to just have Georgia pay a lump sum to the rec department to be considered residents, if you will, and pay the same fees as St. Albans City residents.
Interesting.
That's what they're voting on. I thought the amount was 15,000.
Could be. I looked at the flyer, but I don't remember the amount.
I don't remember what the amount was. So,
Huh.
and that's a conversation that's always ongoing with the town as well.
Right.
And they paid in the past. I think last time they paid 50,000 to be considered city residents, and 50,000 is a deal when you look at
Yeah.
what our staffing is, how much infrastructure you have to have in place, equipment, staffing, all that stuff. So 15 would be great for the residents of Georgia moving
Yeah.
forward. And, I hope they take advantage of it, because I think we have a quality rec program.
Yeah.
And
Is that the first time that issue's come up in Georgia for?
no, I think Kelly has spoken to him pre-COVID, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there was a small amount paid then,
Yeah.
and then when it came time to revisit it, so what Kelly does is they monitor. They can give the stats as to how many Georgia kids participated in what
Huh.
program. Same with St. Albans Town.
Huh.
They know exactly how many kids are being active in the rec program. So.
Oh, yeah.
I think the first year Kelly didn't have any documentation, and since that, she's been able to aggregate the usage from Georgia. So she was able to present that and come to the table with a new number, and I think it's
Interesting.
15,000.
Boy, speaking of COVID, I almost hate to go there, but does it look like finally, about 2 years into this?
Yeah,
that
I don't
we
wanna-
don't even,
Like,
probably don't
yeah,
even
no,
talk about it.
I joked with folks.
hear ya.
Joked with folks over Christmas. I said, "Well, next Christmas will be different."
Yeah.
Of course, that was the same thing we said a year ago, and yeah.
I guess we can
Yeah,
leave it. At
I'm-
least the numbers are looking a lot lower lately.
Numbers look great. I'm going day by day, and
Yeah.
I see that two things that I observe. People are fed up with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, they want to move on from it,
Yeah.
and I think people are starting to move on as I go into different businesses, restaurants, whatnot. My wife and I had dinner up at the Phoenix House up in Berkshire.
Yeah, that's a great place.
Yeah, it's a nice one. We had a great meal. So we were up there Saturday, and no one had masks, and no one entered with masks. So I think there's a lot more not only fed up, but a little more comfort with where we are in the pandemic.
Interesting. Mentioning the Phoenix House, and I'm not sure he may not have had any connection for years, but I'm going back, eating there maybe 5 years ago, and Paul Martin, the now former state rep from the Highgate, Franklin, Richford, Berkshire district, had some connection with the Phoenix House, but of course he's been in the news having just resigned from the legislature, and I guess Wayne LaRush has been appointed to succeed him.
I thought the appointment was wonderful. I mean,
you know Wayne LaRush.
I dealt with Wayne a little bit during his term as Fish and Wildlife Commissioner.
Huh.
You know, thanks to Paul for his time, but I think I was surprised, and there was a quick turnaround.
Boy, I was in fact, I didn't even take note of what was happening up there.
Yeah, and I think having Wayne, who knows the system, knows how things work in Montpelier, I think he's going to be a great addition for the county.
Yeah, and boy, that's in the second new addition, of course, with Brian Savage becoming the Swanton Town Administrator and Matt Walker succeeding him.
Yeah.
Do you know Rep Walker?
I do know Matt, yeah.
Okay, of course, the boys varsity basketball coach at MVU.
And owns JC Images.
JC Image.
In the, I think that might be in the town. It's on the border.
Huh.
But yeah, I think Matt would do a good job. I think it worked out well for the delegation.
That's right.
For both of them.
And speaking of politics, a bit of a surprise, I think Jim Kondo is the kind of veteran Secretary of State announcing his retirement.
I can't help to think who's going to come out of the woodwork to apply for that.
Boy, any obvious thoughts that come to your mind about that?
I don't have any, no.
Huh.
No.
I remember Carolyn Brannigan, the former, of course, state rep and now Georgia select board member. She had mentioned, I think, to me years ago, some interest in Secretary of State. Of course, just took a shot at state treasurer a while ago, but boy, tough for Republicans under governor. You know, it seems like Vermonters will vote for a Republican for governor sometimes, as in with the current incumbent Phil Scott. But boy, when you get below governor, it just seems like pretty tough for a Republican to win.
I was curious if maybe some of the others who have announced for other positions maybe might reconsider their current move and reevaluate the possibility. And the first one that comes to mind for me is Charlie Kimball.
Of course, former St Albans.
Former St Albans.
Who you know pretty.
I know Charlie fairly well. They grew up in the community when we were.
Yeah.
Charlie is a former banker, business person. I mean, I actually think Charlie would be great for that job. Not that he won it for. I don't know. I got to be careful. I don't know if that's people are going to consider that an endorsement, Richard. So I got to be careful.
But you're right. Now it's become a pretty crowded field for lieutenant governor at this point.
Yeah.
No, that's a good thought. You wonder if somebody like him might be wondering about changing.
I wonder if he might, pull the plug on the lieutenant governor and focus on the Secretary of State.
Interesting.
And like I said, I think he would do a good job.
Yeah. Tim, down to the last minute, anything you want to briefly touch on that we haven't talked about?
No, we're excited I'm excited for spring. A lot of people are excited about the potential new stores on Main Street. We talked about that.
Yeah.
There's some work to be done on the buildings, but I think we're headed in the right direction for sure with the downtown. I know there's other places looking for space. It looks like we're becoming more of a foodie community with more food on Main Street, but hopefully the market can handle that. We have the demand for it. So just encourage people to get out and vote. I wanted to talk about Jim Pelkey, 20 years of service. As I said the other night, he's 68 years old, almost a third of his life he's committed to the city of St Albans. And we gave him a small plaque, and we really, he served with my brother, and it's great that, and I just thank Jim for all his time.
Yep, nice word. Thanks to St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith, producer Roger, I'm Richard Copperthwaite. See you next time. See ya.